Hi folks, welcome to this week's Inside Track with Scotty Sun. As always, we've got Jim Delahunt here with me. Jim, we'll have a look at Hamilton, great card there on Friday night. Was that the scene of the same meeting where you famously had the child being dragged through the paddock behind you?
Yeah, that video has been played out a few times, Robert. I think we've seen it in a few these late night programs that they do the repeats. But yeah, I never get paid for that. That was £200 went to a producer, not to me. So yeah, that was the scene of a famous broadcast on. I think it was STV a few years ago, and the child being dragged behind me is now notorious. So yeah, I didn't get paid for that, but it's all good fun. All good fun.
Well, we'll focus on the what's going on in the race course rather than the paddock. We start off with the Scottish Stewards Cup at 6:35. I believe you've got a fancy in that.
Yeah, it's a race I've been looking forward to all week because we all thought that Jim Goldie's horse Jordan Electrics was going to make his seasonal comeback in this race, but he was actually rated 102. It's an 81 to 100, so he would have got in if there weren't enough declarations down below. But they did reach the full maximum 15 for this race, so poor old Jordan Electrics has to go straight to Goodwood for the Stewards Cup and not get his preparation in the Scottish Stewards Cup. So that's a wee bit disappointing from Jim Goldie's point of view, but it's a very, very strong field. Kevin Ryan's won it a few times and he's got three in the race. Venture Capital, Bergerac, and Van the Man. You wouldn't rule out any of those on their current handicap mark. Shane Gray, Tom Eves, and Clifford Lee riding the Ryan horses. But the one I like right down at the bottom is sneaked in as number 15 is Trilby. Sam England, both flat and jumps, her horses are running really, really well at the moment. Had another winner yesterday. And Joe Fanning, who's riding is as good as ever, as well as ever, just approaching 55. He's about to turn 55 in September. A real veteran. He had a double at Hamilton last Saturday night. Always rides this track well. Trilby is a horse he's won on a couple of times. It actually ran here in a £35,000 race in the Sky Bet series earlier in the season. Ran a very decent fourth. That was over 5 furlongs. I think he's better over six, especially with this little cut in the ground that we're going to get at Hamilton on Friday night. That's not because of the lovely sunny weather at the moment, but it's because of the heavy rain they had on Tuesday. So there'll be a little bit of cut. That'll suit Trilby. He's also got form tied in with American Affair earlier in the season, and he's actually £4 lower on Friday night than he was against American Affair, and he was only less than 4 lengths behind American Affair that day at York. So I think this is a well-handicapped horse, ridden by a jockey who knows him very well. Only a 5-year-old, feels as if he's been around a long time, and he's back down to the winning mark that he had at Beverley in April. So I think Trilby's got a fantastic chance under Joe Fanning on Friday night in the Scottish Stewards Cup. But the one I looked at, and I think it's the one that you fancy, is the Charlie Hill horse, Double Rush.
Yeah, just the fact that Charlie Hill's name was on the race card piqued my interest because it's not a name you see coming up here very often. Actually, I looked back and he said three runners here since 2009, all three of them finished placed. So
Yeah.
that was enough to get me interested. I mean, I think the pace angle of this race will suit this horse because two of the horses you mentioned, Bergerac and Venture Capital, are on either side, so they should force the pace. He'll get a nice toe into it as well. And having won at Newmarket, I always think Hamilton's uphill finish
Yeah.
is quite suitable for horses that like Newmarket. So unfortunately, it's been well found in the market. It's 5-2 favourite in the first show I saw. With the first one to put up prices this morning, so I was
Yeah.
hoping for a bit bigger, but we'll see once the rest of the bookies open their markets. We'll see what it is before the race tomorrow night. But I thought Double Rush had a right good chance.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. As I say, it was marked up as second choice on my card. I just fancy Trilby. The other thing I didn't mention about Trilby is he's coming back after a wind operation. So we never know if these wind operations are going to work or not. Sometimes it takes 2 runs for them to get the full benefit of it as they get used to breathing better. But I think even on the bare form, Trilby, I think, has got a fantastic chance. Double Rush would be my saving bet in it. I wish you well with that one. But Joe Fanning's won the race twice, 2010 and 2020. I'm hoping he can add another one on Trilby.
Then we move on to the main event, the Glasgow Stakes, the listed race on a mile and three. Some great winners of this over the years. We've had Defoe, Postponed, Subjectivist.
Yeah.
Great roll of honour in this race. What do you fancy in this one? A lot of the big guns are up for this as well, aren't they?
Yeah, this race used to be run at York. It was transferred to Hamilton in 2006. And the Roll of Honour, as you say, Robert, has been absolutely top class. Group 1 winners all over the place, including last year, Kalpana, who won this race for Andrew Balding, went on to win the Fillies and Mares Group 1 at the Ascot Champions Day. So the fact that Andrew Balding is another runner this year, I think we should take note. It's a filly called Secret of Love, which PJ McDonald, who's very much his go-to jockey in the north at the moment, rides Secret of Love at Hamilton on Friday night for Andrew Balding. So I think that has to have a chance, especially with the entries that she has as well. But the one I've come down on here, and it's an interesting one because it's a handicapper stepping up in grade. Okay, it's not a Group 3 race, this, but it's a listed race. It's just one grade below. I think Rogue Millions has got a chance. Has only won a little race, a little handicap at Carlisle last time, won a maiden before that. But I thought he looked like an improver last time. He looked like a group horse and a handicap last time, admittedly a Class 4. I don't want to talk this up too much, but Rogue Millions, I think, is a progressive horse. Holds an entry in the Great Voltigeur Group 2 at York, the St Leger trial later on. They wouldn't have put him in that if they didn't think he was capable of stepping up. This is a listed race. It is a step up. James Owen is a young trainer, very much on the up, and he's got Luke Morris booked for this one. So I'm going to take a chance on Rogue Millions without going too overboard.
Yeah, I thought for Rafe Beckett, Square Dalboni was quite interesting. It won a listed race before at Shanty at the end of last year. Came back in the Chester Vase this year. The race won by Lambourne was all too much for him. Don't think he liked Chester at all. He's more suited to undulating tracks. Was winner at Epsom Salisbury as a 2-year-old. So I think Hamilton might bring out the best in him. The only
Yep.
concern I've got is the lack of runners for the Beckett stable at the moment. We're filming this at the Thursday morning or Thursday lunchtime.
Yeah.
He's due to have 2 runners today, which will take him to only 11 runners in the last 14 days, which for a stable, an operation of that size, is very, very few. So I just wonder, I mean, he has had a win on a couple of places in there, but I just wonder the reason why Beckett's not had that many runners would be a slight concern. But Square Daboni, I think, is a horse that's got the ability to win a race like this.
Yeah, totally agree with you. What I would say about trainers who maybe have a quiet spell, they don't tend to work back up. They tend to explode back in. So if Rafe Beckett's horses are well, then expect a big run from Square Dalboni in that race. But I think overall we can say about that race, Robert, is that I think you need to watch the form because the record of this race over the years has been absolutely superb. And now that trainers know about it, you can guarantee that these are decent horses coming up, including the one we haven't mentioned, Naran from John and Thady Gosden, Oisin Murphy is going to be in the saddle on that. So it looks a very, very classy listed race. We've gone Rogue Millions and Square Dalboni. Hopefully we won't be too far away.
Now we go down to Newbury where we've got the super sprint at 3:30, Jim. That's the main event on Saturday. What do you fancy for that one?
Well, I think the obvious one is Savannah Hurricane. They've been talking about it all week in the racing press and one or two other people picking up on it as well. Of course, it's trained by Eve Johnson Houghton, who seems to have an absolutely plethora of very good 2-year-olds this year. So good luck to her with that one. She was swithering about running or not, but she's decided to run. So Havana Hurricane goes in this Weatherby Super Sprint. Obviously, there's a whole pile of cash to be won. And that's why I've actually gone against it. I've gone for a filly called Kotai Bell, trained by Richard Fahey, Cam Hardy in the saddle. Now, Fahey has won this race 3 times since 2013. That's better than 25% over the past 11 years. Kotai Bell looks progressive. Cam Hardy's a very good lightweight jockey. Lightweight these days is about 8 stone 7 because a lot of these boys riding in the top echelons are riding about 8 stone 13 to 9 stone 4. So Cam Hardy picks up rides like this. And I think Fahey, who is a trainer who tends to target horses at these kind of sales races. And this one's got a few other entries which make it look very interesting as well. So Kotai Bell, progressive enough to be an each way bet for me at around 12 to 1.
Yeah, and the race just before that, the 2:57, you put Ferris up on Northumberland Plate Day, Jim, and
I did.
finished fourth in a race that Diligent Harry completely nicked from the front.
Yeah.
Great ride by Safi Osborne, just to say you about 4 or 5 lanes clear at one point. I just wonder if that one's maybe worth giving another chance, simply because there's enough negatives about the rest of the field. I mean, Kinda Blue's a Group 1 winner, won it in Champions Day last year with some great horses, Flora Bermuda, Spycatcher in behind, but he ran at Newcastle that day and was pretty disappointing. We've got Elite Status, who won this race last year and he's 2 out of 2 at the track, but kind of lost his way a bit. And then Regional, who I think you're going to talk about, is
Yeah.
obviously got the form coming in it from the King Stand behind American Affair. But I just thought Ferris I mean, he was Diligent Harry's going to be top weight in this. They were levels that day. He now has to Diligent Harry now has to give him £3. So I just thought
Yep.
that one might bounce back on a grass surface as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see that as well. Ferris for Jack Shannon. I think it's got a definite chance. You mentioned regional. I'm going to mention. I don't know about Talk Up, but Ed Bethel thinks a lot of this horse. He's a 7-year-old now, but Cal Rodriguez in the saddle on Saturday. I think it's run 2 good races this season. I think it's probably due a win. I'm just not confident enough to go and tip it because there's one or two others. You mentioned Elite Status. Cheek pieces on for the first time on Saturday, which I think is interesting. Last year's winner, and also Giraffe blinkered for the first time, Owen Burrows and William Buick. So a couple of we just don't know where they're going to come from, what angle they're going to come from in terms of being their form being improved by headgear. So you've mentioned Ferris, I've mentioned regional. I think they'll both run very well indeed.
And then we'll go to the Curragh, Jim, where it's the Irish Oaks weekend. We've got Minnie Hawk running. You put her up at Epsom. Do you just see her? She's going to be a short price. Do you just see her going down and back? Wins quite easily.
Yeah, had a look at the declarations again this morning. Can't really see anything to beat Minnie Hawk. It's going to be very, very short, so I'm not going to be clever and try and tip that. So Minnie Hawk is probably going to win the Irish Oaks to add to her success at Epsom. Can't see anything to cause a surprise, really. I mean, I think you fancied we might take the long way at Epsom to run a good race. It's in again for Joseph O'Brien. And funnily enough, all three O'Briens seem to be in good form. Joseph, Aidan, and Donnacha. I think they had 5 of the 7 winners at an Irish meeting the other night. So they're probably going to do well at the Curragh on Saturday. But I am going to put one up here and maybe mention another one later. But the one I really fancy in the Scurry Handicaps, a €100,000 race at 2 o'clock. It's over 6.5 furlongs, just short of 6.5 furlongs. And it's a British raider called Cannon's House. It's trained by Mick and David Easterby, whose horses are trundling along quite nicely at the moment. And it's ridden by a jockey, Billy Garrity, who's had success in Ireland for Richard Fahey in the past. I think he'll give this a really good ride. Now, Cannon's House, they've bunged it up £3 from its British rating. But I don't think that's too much to worry about because I think it's well ahead of the handicapper over here. And I think Cannon's House against some very ordinary sprint handicappers in Ireland at the moment, which just tend to come out and beat each other every week. It's even in these big Premier handicaps. I think Cannon's House could still be ahead of the assessor. It's a 4-year-old going over to Ireland for the Easterbys. I think it's got a real good chance. And Billy Garrity, who actually got off a horse at Ayr the other day and said to me that he almost mucked it up. That wasn't quite the language he used, but he didn't muck it up. And he actually won. He's a jockey who's very hard on himself, but I think he'll give that a great ride. Cannon's House, I think that could surprise a few over there.
Is there anything else in the Curragh card caught your eye?
Yeah, it's a better way. I remember a couple of weeks ago, Robert, we were talking about the Irish Derby card and saying how poor it was in comparison to the race itself and how disappointing it was as a supporting card for such a big race. So the actual supporting card for the Irish Oaks is a lot better. They've got a Group 2 over 5 furlongs, the Sapphire Stakes at 3:05. And interestingly here, Ryan Moore rides for Ed Walker on Maghera. I think that's got to have a chance. Johnny Portman fancies his Rumstar. That's been topped up in the press all week. But the local one is the one I fancy here. Powerful Nation, trained by Andrew Slattery, ridden by his son, who's also Andrew. They had a couple in the race. They plumped for this one. Powerful Nation, very much on the upgrade, I thought. And his form figures in Ireland are absolutely superb. Never out the first three, never out the first two on turf. And I think stepping up to Group 2 here, I don't think this is a Group 2 race. I think it's maybe about Group 3 level, and Powerful Nation, I think, is probably good enough to win. So haven't checked the prices as yet, but shouldn't be ridiculously short, I don't think, with such a really strong challenge from Great Britain. And Powerful Nation for the Slatterys, a team very much in form, father and son, is the one for me in the 3:05.
Well, we'll then come back to the UK Market Rasen. We've got their big summer plate day, so for a good look at that card. And the 205, I think Ballygeary's quite interesting. Switch stables with Donald McCain to Mike Sorsby after being put into the Doncaster sales about a month ago there. This horse needs to go right-handed. It's form right-handed. It's 2-1-5-2, including a win over course and distance last summer. It's down £8 since it won last year, and that's because since it won right-handed, it has only run right-handed once, and it's 6 runs since then. So it's come tumbling down the handicap. William Maggs is going to ride it, take off 5. So he's actually £6 lower than his last win which was over course and distance. Up with the pace. I think if Mike Sorby's got him fit, he'll be bang there. That's in the 205. What about the 240, Jim?
Yeah, the 240s, the summer handicap hurdle, it's worth 60 grand. The big chase coming up, I'll mention as well, worth 100 grand. But this one's over 2 miles. And the one I fancy is the top weight. So technically, the best horse in the race is Kihava. Of course, he's a very, very, very smart horse on the flat as well. He runs off 137 here with Danny McMenamin in the plate. Goes well at Market Rasen. That's a plus. He'll be fine going right-handed here. Goes well at Musselburgh as well. Was fine right-handed there too. Sir Galahad, you'd have to think Sean Bowen and Ollie Murphy will fancy that going for a four-timer this season. I think you can add a few onto that if you take it back a bit. And the other horse that I thought might have a chance here off 10 stone 10 with James Bowen in the saddle is Goblet of Fire for Nicky Henderson. Decent flat form too. But I think Kihava could be a class above this lot. And I'm not overly keen on backing top weights and handicap hurdles, especially when they've got 12 stone and 12 stone plus. But Kihava, I think, is very, very classy. And I think with Danny McMenamin doing the pushing, Adrian Keatley's horses in reasonable form, I think Kihava is the one to be on. And just moving on to that 100 grand chase over 2 miles 5, the one that's been jumping out at me all week, and I suspect will jump out at punters as we get closer to the race, is Ballysacks Hank for Gavin Cromwell. He's booked Harry Cobden for the mount. Harry rides Market Rasen well. I remember he rode an absolutely fantastic race in one of Ian Jardin's just a couple of years ago. Ballysacks Hank looks like a horse that has been laid out for this race. You have to ignore the fact that his last run over hurdles at Bellewstown, I think it was, looked ordinary at the time, but I suspect that was a prep race for this. He's nicely handicapped off 10 stone 5. Cobden is booked, and I think that's the one, despite the claims of sure touch for Sean Bowen and Ollie Murphy, which has been handed the cheek pieces for the first time.
And the 350, I like God's Own Getaway, who's starting to look pretty well handicapped again. He was hiked up to 116 after winning over 2 mile 3 here last summer. Followed it up, going to Perth with a second to Paris Encore, who bit a course specialist at Perth.
Yeah.
The winter and spring horses started coming out, and he found life difficult off that mark. So he's come tumbling down to a mark 105. And to me, he looks a very dangerous horse off of that for the Skeltons. Now, Rocks Up Late and Greenways, two younger horses going in the right direction. They'll be dangerous, but I think God's Own Getaway's got the look of a horse that's pretty well handicapped now, and I think the Skeltons might be bringing him back here to pull the trigger. And we've also got Cartmel racing on Saturday and on Monday, so we've got one of
Yeah.
each. On Saturday in the 322, Go Go Chicago for Ruth Jefferson, who doesn't send many horses to Cartmel at all. She's only had 5 runners there in the last 7 years, which is amazing considering it's one of the northern tracks and fairly easily gettable for them. But uh, ran here a few weeks ago, was second to Greatness Awaits. Third
Yeah.
was about 25 lengths behind or something. He's up £4 for that. It's good to soft ground that day, but if it's quicker, there is a little bit of rain in the forecast. If it's quicker than the good to soft ground that they had the other week, which it could be, that's better for it. And I just think Go Coast Chicago, the way it ran here the last time, I think it's got to go close. And then on Monday, there is one in the 312, Gentabello, which is going to make its hurling debut after two bumper wins at Kelso and Market Rasen for Ian Jardine and Brian Hughes. Now, this horse beat Hey Buddy, owned by the Rooneys, who have really tapered down their jump
Yeah.
stint over
Yeah.
over the last few years. But they do still have a couple. I think they've only got 7 maybe in total. But they've got one with Fergal O'Brien called Hey Buddy. Gentabello came out and beat it quite easily at Kelso in a bumper. So they went out and bought it. The breeding of this horse, it was actually, the Rooneys are completely involved in this because it's out of a mare called Hester Fleming, who won 4 races for the Rooneys
Yeah.
about 10, 11 years ago, sired by My Dreamboat, who you remember, Jim, won the Prince of Wales for the
Yeah.
Rooneys.
Yeah. Wow.
So they've obviously seen this horse beating one of theirs and thought, right, we're going to have that on the breeding. It went to Market Rasen on June the 20th, followed up in another bumper under a penalty in a race with 3 claimers as well. So it was giving stacks of weight away. This thing looks like a real horse to follow. We don't know whether it's going to be declared yet. We don't know what it's going to be facing yet, but it's definitely Gentabello is definitely a horse to put in your tracker.
Okay, well, at Gentobello on Monday at Cartmel. There's also a meeting at Ayr on Monday where they run the Ayr Gold Cup trial. And just one mention for this race. I won't tip in at the moment. I'll have a mention for it in the Sunday column, the diary, in the Scottish Sun on Sunday. But this race was won last year by a horse called Alpha Kalenic. It missed the cut for the Ayr Gold Cup by one and won the Silver Cup doing handstands. So keep an eye on that Ayr Gold Cup trial at Ayr on Monday, and I'll try and flag up the winner in Sunday's column.
Thanks very much, Jim. Best of luck with your bets this weekend, folks.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, everyone.